Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to host another one of our Enliven chats here. Catherine Sharp has brought all of us here together, myself, Ahmed Rame, we have Tara Adams from Abridge Consulting, and we have Michelle Precourt from Mindful HR Services. And today we're going to be talking about mental health and mental wellness in organizations and business today. As we're, of course, still going through the pandemic into our second year of this, there's a lot of important talks to be had. So, Michelle, why don't we start with you? And if you can give yourself a quick introduction for everyone today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ahmed. So my name is Michelle Precourt, and what I bring to today's conversation is some experience working in corporate Canada and understanding the stressors and pressures of being in that environment. And now I run a firm called Mindful HR Services, and what I do with leaders and with employers is to encourage mindfulness and meditation practices in support of health and wellness for, greater workplace success, greater productivity, greater balance people.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle. Happy to have you here. Tara, how about yourself?
Hi, Catherine, Michelle, Ahmed. I'm Tara Adams of Abridge Consulting. My specialty is bridging the gap to workplace mental health, and my personal motto is let's get more people, more help sooner.
Excellent. I love it. Really great directions from both of you. And of course, Catherine, how about yourself?
Great. Thanks, Ahmed. And thanks, Tara and Michelle, for joining us here today for this conversation. Very purposeful conversation at this time. My company is Enliven, and I support small to medium-sized businesses on their journey of digital transformation. So I'm really happy to have this conversation with all of you.
Fantastic. And myself, Ahmed Rame, I'm with Marketing by Rame, and I specialize in helping with marketing strategy and brand strategy and helping businesses reach their market goals. So as we're continuing this conversation about mental health and how it impacts organizations, and especially in this post-COVID world, through some of the research that I have been seeing, and maybe some of you have been seeing as well, is there's a lot of time and money that's been invested on the back end of mental health, where it's the consequences of poor mental health. And so, one of the things I'm seeing on a more global scale, though I know we're speaking kind of from a Canadian picture, but if we were to extrapolate on a global scale, I've seen 12 billion working days are lost each year to depression and anxiety alone, for example, or I'm seeing $2.5 trillion is the cost to the world economy from poor mental health every year. And that's not a pandemic picture, that's a regular year. So if you can imagine how you layer on a pandemic on top, what does that look like? And so what I think many of us are wondering or would love to know is, how should I invest in my workplace mental health or wellness today? And if I'm looking forward, what might be some of those helpful tips or strategies, maybe as something that I can implement easily in my organization, maybe not today per se, but in the near term future, and what might be some longer term goals. So with that, Michelle, maybe if you have some ideas to kick us off with, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I think we do need to be cognizant of the world of work and the future and what that looks like. And I recently came across a stat that was, some research that the World Economic Forum published on the future skills needed for 2025. So they're looking outwards a couple of years. And one of those skills that was highlighted was self-management. So this is what we're doing a lot these days, is trying to manage self with this high level of anxiety, high level of, you talked about depression, a lot of uncertainty. And so I think employers should really look at it from this lens, is how can we support developing those skills which are related to resilience, which are related to communication skills. Some of the really fundamental, I'll even put them in bunny ears as soft skills, because there's nothing soft about those skills. But to support that, I've been using this term called collective care. So from a leader perspective, what are you doing to support your team on a day-to-day basis? Are you demonstrating to them, encouraging them that it's okay to step away from your desk? Are you encouraging them to go for walks These are really small, simple things, but we know getting away from screens are good for us. We know fresh air is good for us. Healthy heating habits. Maybe it's like a nutrition challenge of some sort, having your glass of water a day. I don't know, a walking challenge of some sort, a virtual walking challenge. But what are you doing to cultivate that kind of collective care? And then the other thing to note is that there's also healthy boundaries to also have. This isn't all on the employer. There's also a responsibility for self. But if you can come from a place of trust, where it's a safe place to share that it's okay to say that I'm having a bad day. It's okay that I've got to take an hour off or the day off or whatever. And it's not due to cold or flu or some of those, physical symptoms, but for other reasons. That takes time, that takes hard work. And but you have to start somewhere, and it's not a one size fits all. So you have to ascertain what is it that your employees are looking for, and then build out that way. But I also think that it starts from leadership in demonstrating that it's okay to do all the things that I just did there.
Mm-hmm. The collective care is so important. As you were speaking, I was thinking through my own workplaces, and it's one thing if one person, has that on their agenda or on their mind, but when you really bring in collective care, that it's something that is permeating across everybody, then everybody's having that conversation together, and you're supporting that broader initiative and that broader sense of everyone believing in this and that it is widely accepted. So I think, for that broader integration throughout the organization, that's definitely one thing companies can do in the near term for future to help them forward. Tara, I see you nodding your head along as well. How about you? What are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear from you.
Well, much like the three of you, I also talk to a lot of small, medium type businesses, and cracking the first steps of what to do about workplace mental health is daunting, no question. And the pandemic has put more pressure and this feeling of I got to get started. So hopefully this is helpful. I couldn't agree more. I'll echo what Michelle said. First, we need visible role modeling by your executives and people leaders in whatever way that feels genuine to you. So if it's town halls, if it's videos, if it's emails, that's for you to decide. But if you don't have a very visible buy-in from everybody leading your company, whether it's a company of 10 or a company of 10,000, this has to be the first step. Once you have all your top execs and leaders genuinely speaking, role modeling that workplace mental health is now a true priority, then you're going to need to work on creating organization-wide awareness, or a little foundation of, I would call it, workplace mental health literacy. We can't go from I had one town hall and now it's nothing but mental health at work. So there's lots of campaigns out there. A lot of the campaigns are free of charge. If you have internal communication capability, not everybody does, then work towards that shared awareness. Once you've got the leaders visibly role modeling and you've got a sense of literacy, now it could be time for training, maybe not. I will say here, this is my most common conversation with small and medium-sized businesses, helping you do your research, helping you choose what fits for your budget, your culture, your learning style. Don't just jump on the first thing in your news feed. There's a lot of different kinds of workplace mental health training out there. So if you need help navigating, let me know. And by the way, while you're doing visible role modeling, awareness and training, we also need to be upgrading or thinking about our resources in the background. If you're large enough to have an EFAP and medical benefits, dig into what you have, don't have, how to amplify what you've already paid for. If you don't have those things, there's lots of free resources you could pull in. Also, one more thing, start reviewing all your data and your policies, including things like medical leaves and recruiting. So hopefully that's a bit of a verbal roadmap to get people started.
I think that's really great. I love the part about leadership role modeling. I think that is so key in organizations today, where we really need to see those examples set from our role models, whether it's leadership or other people around us, but role modeling in general, to just appreciate how are other people handling this within the organization and that they are walking the walk with us and that kind of thing. So I think, you hit the nail right on the head with there. And I love that roadmap you provided. Catherine, in your world, what are you seeing happening from organizational standpoint, or perhaps how organizations may be shifting in this way, or have they been asking you, I guess, about this?
Well, I think part of it, and you both have addressed it very well, is kind of where we start. But I think that holding the space for that, it's back to that listening part too, because I think the direction that this is going to go is going to be based on what the needs are. I think also the other part is the capability of leadership. So I think it's, that does kind of fall to leadership to really understand. And I think, Tara, you mentioned this too. It's kind of like, do you have things in place already? Do you not? Right? And then, Michelle, I really like the piece too about that sort of self-care, that self part, right? Because that's where this all starts. We're all, there's the conversation out there is that we're all in the same ocean, but we're rowing different boats, right? And we all have different circumstances, and that includes the leaders that are meant to sort of, model this or show people in their organization how to go about that. If you've got a leader who, says take the time you need, but they don't, or we talked earlier about boundaries, right? If all of a sudden, it's become a 24/7 work environment because you're now working from home and there's no break. So I think leaders have to demonstrate what that looks like and be respectful of those things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the part about the 24/7 workday. It is so easy to blur the lines of, I'm at home. Do I can pick up and after my kid goes to sleep, I can start looking at emails again for the next day, or finish that one project I didn't have. Or on the other hand, it allows that flexibility of, I was really busy with, something at home today. My daughter needed more attention or what have you, and I'm going to, compensate for that later in the day. And so your workday kind of gets extended because now you're adjusting your hours in different ways. So there's good flexibility, and then there's that sort of overcompensating flexibility and all that. But I think this has been a really great conversation and a good roadmap ahead for some of the people watching this. And, of course, as they have more questions, or maybe this has sparked more thoughts, feel free to reach out at any time. And I'm glad to have all of you here with us today. So I'll end with that, and I'll look forward to the next conversation. Thank you.